Hi, welcome to Smith and Grezzy. It's a sad time for me and Sandy because one of our very best friends has sadly passed away. Duncan Beckley was a regular contributor on Smith and Grezzy, so we always thanked him for that. We always enjoyed his company, as I'm sure many of the other banders out there did too. Sandy, we got the news on Sunday morning. It was
Yeah,
devastating.
yeah, it was. Yeah, just having to try and think about it again is even
Yeah,
getting me going again. Yeah, it's just shocking,
yeah,
terribly sad.
yeah. He was quite a remarkable man.
He was astonishing. He really was. I mean, I first met Duncan way back in the early 80s. I came down to Huddersfield at the back end of 81. Uh, and almost straight away, I mean, I was young, keen, banding, managed to get into Black Dyke, all that at the time, and blah, blah, blah. And you were busy doing stuff. But any time you had off, you were knocking around all these band clubs
Yeah,
that were here at the time. And Duncan was steeped in Yorkshire banding by then. And I remember meeting Duncan at places like Home Band Club, which is now
not far from you, is it?
no,
Yeah,
it's not. And, it's shut now. The band's gone. The club's shut. But that was a regular haunt on a weekend where if we had no concerts on, we'd all end up at either Dob X or wherever, home band club. And there was Duncan,
yeah,
either conducting or, and that was it. It was just straight away. He was a mate and you got to know him. And he was just so well respected,
he was.
all the way through. I mean, you look at the tributes that have been online since he passed. They're not just coming from, two, three, four bands. There's hundreds of bands that he touched. I mean, he came and conducted us in such and such a time, and we did that. It was a great, and it's not just his musicianship and his knowledge and everything else, but he is thought of as a really caring, helpful person,
Yeah,
and musically, I mean, I learned so much from him, and um, yeah, it's hard to get
yeah,
it all coherently into words and all that, but our relationship goes back to the early 80s.
yeah,
And then it's been really consolidated in the last 4 or 5 years when he joined the music panel.
yeah.
Um,
He was enjoying doing that, wasn't he?
yeah, I mean, Rachel and Duncan just live. Literally, if I got in the car now, I could be around at Duncan's in 10 minutes.
Yeah,
So, and because of his health and stuff, we used to go there more than he came here.
yeah,
It was just easier for things.
yeah,
And we'd spend hours and hours just chatting and listening to stuff and talking. And, one of the things I know I used to say is we used to research stuff and try and
yeah,
find pieces that might be useful, chuck them in the pot, see what others think. And I'd say, do you remember that such and such a thing? Nah. Well, I'm not sure. I can't remember that one. And I'd say, well, you bloody should, mate, because I've got it down here. You won the such and such a contest in 1984, third section, conducting so and so. Oh, did I? Did I? Yeah, vaguely. And then you put it on. We'd be listening to it. I'd have my phone or the laptop or something. Oh, yeah, bloody hell, I remember this. Oh, it's a bloody good piece, and off he'd go, and he was so knowledgeable, especially about that. That was the reason he was brought on, was his knowledge of lower section banding.
yeah.
I mean, it's unsurpassed. I mean, yeah. I think you got some statistics, didn't you?
Today, I thought, you read a lot of these, he won over this contest and he did this and he did that. So I thought, right, I'm going to do some research. So I got brass band results in, and it is remarkable. Since 1978, I think it was, when he was looking to get into conducting, and he thought the best way was to form his own band. I don't want to tell you too much about that because we've got a little clip of Duncan himself talking about how he started. But
Yeah.
before we play that clip, Sandy, since 1978, he's had third prize 41 times. He's had second prize 67 times, and he's had first prize 103 times.
Jesus.
Now, that equates to 4.48 podium finishes in every year that is conducted. That is remarkable. That time. That is unbelievable.
I mean, what you knew, what you were getting, if you were going to a contest and you saw Duncan's name in the programme, you knew you would get proper quality performances, because
you've got a battle to beat it.
Yeah, because he was tied into all the things that I would consider good about banding, right? The way a band sounds, the way it plays, the important things.
Yeah.
The way that good music should sound. He was very opinionated and as to what he thought was good music and not so good music for testing bands and what was important. We didn't always agree, but I was pleasantly. It reassured me that somebody of his caliber agreed with my take on things to a great extent. It was sort of thinking, okay, if Duncan thinks this is all right, I must be on the right sort of tracks,
Yeah.
And then he would push back against a lot of things as well when we were discussing stuff. Oh, that's a bit. You don't think that's a bit hard for them at that level? Whatever we were talking about, or do you think that's just a bit too straightforward? They need a bit more of a challenge than that,
Yeah.
And but he did talk about, in one of the very early podcasts we did, he really laid out what he considered going through from fourth, third, second, first championship, the sort of challenges that were appropriate.
Do you know, Sandy, we were sat around that table in that discussion, and he absolutely amazed me at his thought process through each section. I was blown away with it.
He was just an absolute proper bander.
He was.
And the contest record, it does speak for itself, but there was a hell of a lot more to him than that.
Yeah.
He was just a passionate music person,
Yeah. I mean, he's done a lot of things over in the years. So some people might be wondering why we've played Sladeburn to open.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, there's a reason for that, isn't there?
Yeah, and I was reminded of this on some of the comments that came up.
Yeah.
Duncan was in the Full Monty movie. And he was, as those will remember, it's a sort of sister film to Brast Off in it. They were both about the same time, and they were both in the sort of industrial working class Yorkshire, South Yorkshire. This one obviously set in Sheffield, and I think there's a scene in the kind of abandoned steelworks or somewhere that there's a band turns up. I think all the guys go to this place and there's a band there rehearsing supposedly or whatever else it is. And Duncan utters the line, and I was reminded of this by this post online. It says something like, "Not in a new lot, Sladeburn," something like that. And then
in a broad Yorkshire accent.
Yeah, and they start playing Sladeburn and all that. So we thought, that's as good a choice as any. I mean, you start picking test pieces and things that he was successful on. Crikey, there's hundreds of them, and so I thought, go on. He was a movie star.
Yeah, he was.
in the Full Monty,
Now, there we Duncan obviously started as a player, and I rather like the fact that he was a tuba player.
Mm-hmm.
So earlier today, I took the chance to speak to John Gillam, himself a great tuba player, who remembers Duncan from his very early days at Yorkshire Schools Band and the National Youth Band. So we'll just listen to this short interview from John. John, you met Duncan quite early, I'm told.
Yes, the first time Duncan and I met was one Saturday morning at College of Music. I'm guessing it was late 1974, early 1975 when I went to the Yorkshire Schools Band.
Oh, wonderful!
Which to give it its correct title was the Brass Band Association of Yorkshire Schools, and it was the music director was Dennis Carr.
Yeah.
And the tutors were Arthur Atkinson. There was Brian Lingley, lovely fellow, got great memories. Peter Kitson, of course. But there were a lot of people there that came from Wakefield Met, so under Les Eccleston and Peter Kitson, and Duncan was one of them. So when I went there, Duncan was on B-flat bass, and there was a lad called Kim Jarvis from Rotherham. He was on E-flat bass, and then I joined, and it was good fun. I mean, Dennis Carr used to run some great sessions there, and there were some great people in the band. I mean, going back to Tony Vaughan, I don't remember Tony Vaughan cornet player Ian Gott and Brian Cherry and Brenda Cherry, sister on flugel, and happy time. So, but that's when I got to know Duncan, and then interestingly, in Easter 1975, we both went on our very first National Youth Brass Band course together at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Which was at Dauntley School, Easter 1975 in Wiltshire.
West Lavington.
And the guest conductor, West Lavington, and the guest conductor was Eric Ball. And one of my abiding memories of Duncan, Duncan always had a big wide grin. He was always, not when I say a figure of fun, I don't mean that flippantly, but he always had that cheeky grin. He was always full of energy and wanted to make people laugh. But he took his music very seriously at the same time. So, but on that Easter Monday morning, it had snowed, which was quite unusual because I think it was late. But so there were 2 or 3 inches of wet snow on the ground, and Duncan rebel roused probably about 20, 25 members of the band out of breakfast, and they all went and got their instruments. And they gathered at the end of the driveway, and Duncan had nicked the bass drum because he didn't fancy getting his double B out. And he got the bass drum on his head, and he could give a double tap, and they started off with Mephistopheles and Eric Ball and his wife, and I think it was Eric Ball's wife's birthday that day as well. They came out and were quite bemused, as were sort of like Peter Room, and wanted to what they could hear this noise, what's going on?
Yeah.
And sure enough, up the drive, there's Duncan at the front, beating the bass drum, and the band playing Mephistopheles marching through the snow, much to everybody's amusement and amazement. So, but that was Duncan. He liked to be the centre of attention, but not in just a way that he wanted to give everybody a good time. I wanted to see everybody happy.
He did.
And something I've full of messages from old colleagues from the youth band today who remember that incident. Marilyn, Marilyn Wolf, Marilyn Ellis, as she is now, she remembers it, and Kevin Harold remembers it. Kevin cornet player from Clacton. So he made a memory, and he was very popular. And Duncan was he was good to sit at the side of. He was always took the music seriously, but it was always good company. And I think, if I remember correctly, when we went on that first course, in those days, Stan Reeks, who was the secretary of the event, would give everybody like a train timetable. So people would come from all parts of the country, and eventually you'd merge onto the final train to the destination. Yeah. And we went down to London, and we came to King's Cross, and we got to get across to Paddington. And there was like Duncan and Harry double B's, and there was probably about 12 or 13 of us. They all coming down from Yorkshire. And Duncan commandeered one of the escalators. He said, right, you go stand at the bottom, I'll stand at the top. And we used the escalator and sort of ferried all instruments down to the bottom. I mean, as I said, there was no end to his ingenuity and his creativity. So, he'll be sorely missed. And one thing I can say about Duncan, I know he's not enjoyed the best of health in recent years, and you could see he was tired, and he's not his usually buoyant self, but his legacy will live on. People will remember him long, long, long after his passing, and for good reasons. Yeah. And they'll remember that sort of like that wide cheeky grin and that impish nature, but also, a very very able musician who's taught a lot of people and a lot of his students when he was school teaching and stuff. So he'll be sorely missed, and a great game. Yeah. It's very sad day, yeah.
That was a lovely reminiscence from John Gillam. Great time. I know I enjoyed my time at the National Youth Band. John did too, and it's obvious that Duncan did too. So it wasn't long after that Duncan started making his way into conducting. Mm-hmm. I believe he was only 15 when he first conducted. So we've got some clip of Duncan himself talking about his early forays into conducting, and it's really interesting. So let's let the listeners have a listen to this.
I was never going to get a top band, so I made my own band.
I remember it, Warren Youth.
The Warren Youth Band.
I remember it well.
Yeah, and that was a combination of players from the Wakefield area and players from the sadly defunct Yorkshire Schools Band.
I remember that, wow.
And they were, what used to happen was on a dinner time when the tutors were having dinner, we used to come back a bit early, and I used to have the Yorkshire Schools Band, and that's how I first got into conducting.
Learned where to put your hands.
Yeah, where to put my hands.
Okay.
And then Peter Kitson used to also come and just sit at the back and just show me. But Peter and I then became great friends.
I remember Peter as
For-
well.
for-
I do.
for many years. And then when I started conducting, I started looking at the kind of local bands. I started conducting kind of the local bands, and I conducted the youth band, you know, in kind of youth championships. But I wanted, a more adult band. I found out very quickly that I wasn't liked. It was a bit of a battle, because I was very young, because I started conducting at 15.
Wow.
Okay.
I started conducting at 15, with the youth band, and then started going around to local bands. I'm going for auditions. Now, a story was just recently told to me that I actually turned up at Horbury
Really?
as a young man.
That's your current band, isn't it?
Yeah, to conduct the band, and I was told by a gentleman who still comes to the band now, Eric Bray, euphonium player. We don't want him. Upstart. He's an upstart. So you can imagine that I didn't get the job. But then, what Eric forgets was I actually played at Horbury as well,
Right.
as a player.
Okay.
So I was playing there, and I was playing at Wakefield.
Yeah.
Then I took a very keen interest. I decided that I wanted to champion the lower sections because nobody else was championing the lower sections. All we ever heard was about the top boys.
Big bands, yeah.
All the big boys,
Yeah.
and I thought I wanted to start championing the lower sections. So I made it my business to conduct and work with as many bands as I could. A lot of the time, I just jumped in my car
Yeah.
and said, I rang somebody up and said, "Oh, I'll come and work with it." And because my name had spread a little bit, that I was, good. I decided I would champion bands. I travelled all over the country, and I mean all over this country, sometimes just for expenses,
Wow.
and sometimes for a fee.
Oh, that was lovely to hear Duncan's voice there, talking about his very early days conducting. And it's remarkable, he set up that little band, Warren Band, and he had so much success with them. I think they started in the youth section, Sandy, and he was like a Pied Piper, was Duncan, with all the youngsters, and really looked after them.
I mean, he spent a lifetime in education and stuff, in teaching. But it's evident from listening to that again and reminding ourselves about what he did. He was basically just passing on the help that he got.
Yeah.
He was helped by the Peter Kitsons of the world, and he learned from those people. And then he spent years and years and years ploughing all that back in.
Yeah.
He was a Pied Piper, like you say, every time you saw his name in the programme, there's quality coming here, regardless of what it is, because he would have his band well drilled and musical.
Yeah.
You know.
Now, one of his best friends, he had two really great friends. One of them was John Roberts,
Yeah.
and the other Garry Cutt. Now, I did a short interview with John Roberts today. It was lovely chatting to him. So let's have a listen to John. Hi, John. A very sad time. Thanks for coming on tonight because to pay tribute to who I know is your very special friend, Duncan. What's your favourite memories of Duncan?
There are that many. I first met him, it must have been about when I first started conducting, around about 1983.
Right.
And of course, by then, Duncan, even though we're the same age, I mean, I'm 66 now.
Yes.
He must have started conducting in the late 70s, so he was quite experienced.
I believe it was 78.
Yeah, I remember him conducting Warren Youth Band.
That's right.
In the late 70s, and of course I remember him conducting at the area with Brodsworth.
Yes.
When he was resident conductor. So he had a bit of a meteoric rise as a conductor.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, he was even now, he's the only black conductor really.
Yeah.
Who's you know, done everything in the movement, and it's very sad, of course, that we've never been able to boast anybody else really.
I know.
In terms of ethnic minorities,
he's a leader, but
yeah.
You know, that not many have followed, which, you say, is a shame.
Correct. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. It's incredible, really.
And his longevity speaks volumes. Absolutely.
Well, it does, yeah. I mean, it must have been really hard for him, of course. I mean,
yes.
But he was, of course, a really good bass player, as you know.
He was.
In flat bass initially, and then double B. But he played E flat for Carlton Main for Frickley in the early 80s.
Yeah, I remember.
You know, that must have been obviously he was the only black face in that band. That must have been an ordeal for him.
Duncan never took himself too seriously, though, did he?
No, he didn't. No, I mean, he was a very good player. He played with you, didn't he? National Youth Standard.
Yes.
And I remember Les Eppleson, who taught him at Wakefield, and Pete Kitson saying to me, what a good player he was.
Yes.
And he had a good ear for music.
Yeah.
Generally. Yeah. And he was interested in conducting. And you're right, he didn't take himself terribly seriously at all.
And I think that's probably the beauty of Duncan.
Yeah, that was the thing, especially in the early days.
Yes.
Because I remember, I read in one of the tributes very recently, Rodney Newton,
right,
of all people, who was a very serious composer, really, is Rodney, a good bloke.
Yeah.
And he said he could tell immediately Duncan was a very good conductor.
Yeah.
But a lot of people knew him in the early days as a bit of a joker.
Right. Which, he had a heck of a sense of humour.
I think he had to be, if you think about it, in the situation that he was.
Yes.
I mean, Les Eppleson told me stories about when he first started playing in Wakefield in the youth band. If he hadn't have got him playing, then he would have gone off the rails,
right?
Because he would get into scrapes, he would get into trouble. He wasn't any good academically. He would get But Les somehow got him started. I think he played flugel or something initially, and then realised that wasn't any good for him. And then he said, "Oh well, there's this thing over this thing at the back there, which is called a bass."
Yeah.
He said, "Do you fancy having a go on that?" Which he did.
Oh, he'd have a go, wouldn't he?
And he did have a go, whereas a lot of people didn't fancy it.
Yeah.
And he suddenly realised, well, yeah, he can play bass, and he can play it pretty well.
Yeah.
And he got the talent, as a musician initially, which, people like Pete Kitson and who took him under his wing could recognise,
Yeah. Well, he earlier in the podcast, you'll have heard, he puts, we were including an interview from Duncan himself, where he's talking about Pete, and he puts a lot of store behind the scholarship that Pete gave him, really.
Yeah, he did. He took him under his wing, did Pete Kitson.
Yeah.
I knew Peter very well.
Yeah.
And he was very helpful to me as a young conductor, was Peter.
Yeah.
He definitely helped me in the early days. But with Duncan, it was quite a special thing, because I didn't realise until some years later, until fairly recently, that when there was trouble at home, to cut a long story short, he actually moved in with Peter.
Did he? Wow.
He did. I didn't know that until very, very recently.
No.
And he took him under his wing, as well as being musically, but actually pastoral. In that sense, he became the father figure.
Yeah.
That you needed at the time, and I didn't know that.
That's wonderful.
Only until fairly recently.
Yeah.
Because if you do, obviously remember Peter Kitson as I do, could be very stern. But
he was very unforgiving, wasn't he?
In the band room, he could be. I mean, it wouldn't be acceptable today, some of the things he used to do.
I remember going to Lockwood under Peter, and it frightened me to death.
Well, yeah, he frightened me to death.
I never went back.
Some of the stuff he got away with when he just before me, when he were conducting at the Rothwell briefly, but of course he knew what he was doing. Yeah, that sort of, and we were reminiscing actually fairly recently before he died, only a few weeks ago, about the dearth of the old-fashioned band trainer. Which is dying out, and he was saying to me that there's only me and him left.
I told him I was going to go and put my foot back in conducting, and I said to him, I only want to really do lower sections, and he said, "Oh, brilliant!" You know how he is, with that gravelly voice. Yes, he says, they just need band training. Just train them, train them.
Training, yes, the band training game, as it is a dying art.
It is.
It seems to have been. We were joking to an extent about this a few weeks ago. It seems to be it's dying out and been replaced by some sort of pretentious view. If we could go on all night, I dare say, Simon, about that, but in another podcast.
But Duncan he wasn't flashy. He was just all about getting all the nuts and bolts in there with an essence of musicality. Yeah. And he just knew how to do it. He was prolific.
People joke about this microwave looking box that he used to take around with this tuner thing that he had. People joke about that and some of the stuff that he used to, but I remember Duncan before he even had any of those
gadgets.
Aids and gadgets and all that rubbish, which I didn't agree with. We used to have debates about that. I know Garry Cutt was a big mate, of course. Gary and I were his two best mates, really, in banding, and Gary didn't approve of all that stuff.
No, he wouldn't.
Which I don't either, but I remember Duncan with a really good ear.
He did.
A really good ear for tuning and balance, which he proved it. I've seen him do it. In a band long before he got hold of the gadgets and the rest of it. So the basic, the band, the appreciation and the band understanding he had as a young lad, as a young fella, and that's why he was able to do so well. Even before.
He must have been great at man managing, because he had so many players followed him around a little bit. Like one or two others, he had a lot. Graham O'Connor was another. He did get a set of camp followers. Yes, as we used to call them. We used to follow him around from band to band because of his personality. Yeah, well, they obviously enjoyed his rehearsals.
And he did have that personality, the big personality.
He did.
And he backed it up with knowledge. which is what you want as a conductor. All the great conductors are great communicators. I mean, Peter Parks, obviously my favourite.
Yeah.
Parks, he was the greatest in terms, because and people respected him because he spoke to people.
Yes.
He didn't belittle people. There wasn't any of that.
No.
And Duncan was very similar. Of course, Duncan was a big Parksy fan like me.
Yeah, he was. I remember him coming up to Black Dive when I was a player there.
Yeah. I mean, but as I say, there was a lot of jokes with Duncan, a lot of, as we've alluded to, but there was a lot of respect as well. People, people did respect what he had to say. Especially as growing up through the movement.
Yeah,
I mean, if you can't conduct Edward Gregson's essay with a good band like Brodsworth, then you know that that performance isn't going to be a good performance. But it was a good performance.
It was, yeah.
Because I was there.
Yeah.
And Edward Gregson was in the box.
Oh wow! I didn't realise that.
Which people, that's the difference between me and Duncan. I've got this mine of useless information memory going back. I could tell who won this and who what in the Grant Shield in 1983 and 84. Yeah. And he just didn't have that sort of brain at all. Yeah.
Well, Sandy was telling me a tale. That they were discussing test pieces for the panel, and he says, "What about this piece?" He said, "Oh, I don't know that one." He said, "Well, we should do because you've won on it 3 times."
Yeah, well, it was hilarious when Red Priest came out a few years ago.
Yeah,
I was conducting it with a couple of bands in the top section, and I said, "Oh, I remember that. It's 2010 at the Open."
Yeah,
straight away I thought it's 2010, and it was there was somewhere else as well.
Yeah,
and I said, "You've done it before."
Yeah,
and it was a Grant Shield. That's right. Yeah, it was obviously come down to the Grant Shield from the Open.
Yeah,
and I said, "You've done it before." He said, "No, I haven't. I said, I can't remember the damn thing." I said, "Well, I'm sure you've done it." And so, of course, I went on the brass band results thing.
Yeah,
and the 4 bars rest contest archive, and I showed him it, and he said, "Well, bloody hell, I just can't remember a damn thing about it." And he used to have this ability to, he'd work a piece up.
Yeah.
And then the following week, he just completely forgotten it.
Yeah, but he'd gladly work it up again.
Yeah, he did, but his mind worked in a completely different way to others.
Yeah. John is going to be very sadly missed.
Well, yeah, he is sadly missed, and I've had lots of people contact me as well because they knew I was his best mate. Some very kind messages to me as well as.
Whenever I saw you, I knew Duncan won't be far behind, and vice versa.
Yeah, even at the ABBA AGM earlier this year in January, I had to help him up the steps. To the meeting, and he made a contribution, and then he had to go, so I went along with him. So we used to go everywhere together.
Okay, wasn't that fantastic? Many thanks to John Roberts for joining us on Smith and Grezzy. It just shows that these friendships he had, I mean, you got really close to him, Sandy, in the last few years with the music panel, and he quietly told me that you'd given him a bit of a zest to research, and he said, my mobility's not quite what it is, but I sit here because of what Sandy's taught me, and research and research and research. He says, just like training a band, train them, and he says he's loving it. So right up to his last days, he was enjoying what he was doing.
I mean, it was mutual, though. That's very kind of him to say that. But I learned so much from him as well, because you were, all right. I started in 4-section band stuff, and even conducting and all that stuff, and then sort of went up to Whitburn Senior Band and Dyke and all the playing that, and that middle bit with in the middle sections. Although I was still very interested and listened to everything.
Yeah,
he had the experience of all that. He knew inside out what it took to make a first, second, third, fourth section band tick. Right?
Yeah.
What you could expect, how far you could push them, what they were capable of with good guidance, and I learned so much about that, especially laterally, because we were only, like I say, 10 minutes away from each other.
Yeah,
on the phone all the time. 2 or 3 times a week, going up and listening to things. Forever. My partner Isabel and Rachel, they're still in the kitchen, or they'd go out shopping or something, and we'd be sat there, and they'd get back and we'd still be sat there, with all these scores lying about and recordings and bits of paper and all this sort of stuff. And so the feeling was mutual, because I was tapping up him for all his, when you played this, what was it like to rehearse that for 6 weeks, or, and he would tell you. And you say, that was the band really enjoyed that. Forgot about that piece.
Yeah.
And so I was learning just as much from him.
Last February, do you remember? We found ourselves at Nember contest, and there was myself, yourself,
Duncan, about 6 months ago,
and Kevin Holgate.
Yeah,
and we sat around that little table, didn't we? We had some right giggles.
We did, because I had gone down with a view to listening to you lot play Introduction, Elegy and Caprice.
Yeah.
And Duncan was there as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was in the section above.
I took scores for whatever it was, most of the test pieces, and I was just sat listening. This was 2 or 3 weeks before the era, because it's a good... it's a good guide as well, just to see how, they weren't close to they weren't a week before or something. It was 2 or 3 weeks before. So you were getting a rough idea as to where everybody was. Yeah. So take the scores and have a listen. And then they're all saying, and I was going to write you some remarks, wasn't there? Some sort of, just a bit of guidance and a bit of sort of, have a look at this, these are the main things you should look for, sort of things. And not really remarks, just pointers, ideas.
Yeah, yeah.
And the next thing, Duncan said, "Well, you write me some, and all that." And they were all at the end of the day. So I spotted a little table, one of those trestle table things at the back of the hall. It wasn't a terribly huge hall. So I sort of set up shop there rather than have the score on my lap and trying to write things. And so I'm sat there, sort of thing. And then the next thing, Duncan turns up, so he sat with me, and we're writing things for you. And it was just great, wasn't it? It was just, and Kevin turned up. Yeah. I think Lee was there as well, Lee Baker. Yeah. And Lee asked, will you write me some notes? And yeah. And
you became a very busy man that day, didn't you?
Well, yeah, but it wasn't just me. It was just a load of mates.
Yeah.
Sort of saying, right, we'll try and get the most out of this situation as we can.
Yeah.
And write a few ideas down.
I remember Duncan because Duncan and Kevin played at Frickley together.
Yeah.
And they got talking about a few memories there. They were funny. And it was just a lovely afternoon spent.
It was.
Just having a good listen to some bloody good playing and some real interesting views as well.
He got me to come down just shortly after that. I mean, before the area, to Horbury.
Yeah.
So he says, "Well, I come down." I said I would. I said I'd go down. The one of those nights a week before and stuff, and just, and he was working hard. He had a couple of bands there, different test pieces, and again, I made notes for them and all that sort of thing, and helped them out. But you did it for a mate, and that was it. It wasn't anything official. It was just It was just being involved and helping somebody, and you could tell from the bands he had there, that night, it just how much love and respect there was for him.
Yeah, there was. Now, talking about love and respect and admiration mutual, was the one and only Marple Maestro Garry Cutt. I spoke to Gary earlier, Sandy, and here's the recording from that. Thanks for joining us on Smith and Grezzy. We just wondered if you could give us a few memories of Duncan.
Yeah, what a lovely bloke. And he and I go back a long, long way, probably to when we both started conducting, really. But the mutual sort of friend that we had was Dennis Carr, who was the conductor of Yorkshire Schools Band, where Duncan played as a young lad. And I actually met Dennis when I was 14, playing at Merleys Works Band. And then, obviously, when I had the embouchure problems and got into conducting, Dennis Carr invited me to go to Wingate as a resident. Whilst I was doing that, that's when I got involved with the local band at Marple.
Yeah.
And in 1986, we travelled to London to do the third section, and I won it with Marple, and Duncan was second with, I think you'll remember, Simon, the Warren Youth Band.
I do remember it well, yeah.
So that's how Duncan and I first met.
Yeah.
And we've remained very, very, very close friends since.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It's really tragic what's happened.
He was a really good musician, wasn't he?
Yeah, and also the enthusiasm he had all the time.
Yeah.
He was just so enthusiastic about his own bands.
Yeah.
You know, Newstead, where he did 25 years. I think at Horbury he's done 15. And he used to travel all over the country.
Yeah.
And full of enthusiasm. He couldn't, fantastic.
Yeah. He specialised in the lower sections, looking at and he's actually told me this before. He wanted to specialise in the lower sections, and just recently I did. I said to him that I was going to go back into conducting and I wanted to do lower section banding, and he were like, "Oh, great! Now then, Simon, all you've got to do is train them, and that is evident, isn't it? In his ethos, that's all. That's exactly what he did.
Yeah, and the results that he's had, he's been very successful at that level.
Yeah,
and I think Duncan knew his place, I think, in banding.
Yeah,
exactly, and he did an excellent job job for lots of bands.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he did have dabbles in higher echelon banding, and looking at the record, he had Brodsworth in first on SA.
That's right.
He was. There's no slouch there. He knew what he was doing.
No, and I think my time at Marple, when I think I ended up taking Grindthorpe, I actually got Duncan to take Marple to the British Open.
Oh, wonderful.
And that meant so much to him that he'd appeared at the British Open.
Yeah.
He was absolutely over the moon.
Yeah. Well, Gary, they don't make many like Duncan, and I'd like to thank you for your kind words about him, and wish all his family all the best.
Yeah. Tragic loss of a friend, but a tragic loss to the band movement as a whole.
Absolutely.
It really is. Lovely bloke, lovely man. Many
thanks to Garry Cutt for his thoughts on Duncan at this really difficult time. The banding world, Sandy, has not just lost somebody. We've lost a colossal personality, a colossal talent.
Yeah, my head's been burst since yesterday when we found out properly and all that, and I'm bloody angry. You know what I mean? I know that
so
sounds
young.
Odd. It just seems, But when you look at what he did for banding, I don't think his importance will be realised until he's not there.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of those guys. He was just, I don't know how to put it. He was just straight down the middle all the time.
Yeah.
There was no edge to Duncan, was there?
No, none.
And we frequently talked in times about, he was in that. not in maybe a unique position, but certainly a very, very rare position in banding, right through from the back end of the 70s, you know, or the 70s when he was in the youth band, all the way through. And let's not shy away from it. You know, he was one of the very few black figures in banding.
Yeah.
And he, you know, I spoke to Duncan about this on numerous occasions and saying, you know, we don't, mate, I says, you know, none of us really have any inkling as to how difficult it could have been at times for you.
Yeah.
You know, but he never played on it. He never, all it was about for him was the music, you know, and that was why he became mates with everybody and was respected, was because he was such a bloody good musician.
You know, you're right, you've hit on something. He never took himself too seriously. An instance I'll give you. A lady at my band yesterday came up. She could see I was upset, and she came up and she says, Duncan used to pop down to Dronfield and take us now and again.
Right.
And one rehearsal, he said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be here the next rehearsal because I'm going on holiday. I'm going to top up my tan. She brought a smile to my face yesterday when she told me that. But
yeah,
that's his sense of humour, though.
Yeah.
He had a great sense of humour.
I mean, I know he was born in London, but he was brought up in Yorkshire, right? He was a Yorkshire lad.
He was.
And he talked proper Yorkshire and all.
He was broader than my mum and dad.
And he was just a genuine article.
Yeah.
What you saw was what you got, and that was it. You know, and he was just straight down the middle.
Absolutely.
I miss him like buggery because, yeah, you're right. You know, we've known each other for a long, long time, but especially the last few years, we've got really, really quite close. You know.
Yeah.
And it was through a mutual passion.
Yeah.
For the music.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he passed on as well. And like we said, not just being associated with one or two bands, he would go and help. He would help anybody. He would pass on his knowledge. He would pass on his passion to anybody who would listen, you know, and even, well, here's an example, right? We released a podcast recently about the area pieces for next year. Yeah. Right. And the plan was to get Duncan onto that.
Yeah.
Because he was on the panel and we could give a bit of an inside info as to why these pieces were picked. Right. And in this instance, and when I phoned them up, and this will be about a month ago, maybe a wee bit less, we were going to record it. Yeah. And we couldn't do it because Duncan was so tied up at bands doing stuff, you know, and we couldn't get the nights to coordinate, could we?
No.
So in the end, we had to just say, look, there'll be other times.
Yeah.
You know, we'll just have to plough on and do this because we needed to get it done, didn't we, for the weekend of Cheltenham, and we recorded it the night before, I think, and he couldn't do that one, you know, and that because he was just busy doing banding all the time, you know. That's just the way he was. He was just out doing it
all the time. He loved it. So Sandy, it's obviously so sad. We're going to miss him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lots of bandsmen are going to miss him. We'd like to send our love and thoughts and to his family.
Yeah.
Duncan Beckley, MBE, God bless.